I'm Kathy Boudet, Managing Editor of EIX. Welcome to another edition of Making the Leap, where we talk to people who've left salaried work to become business owners. Today, I'm talking with Ani Bhalekar, who is the founder of EliteFit, a B2B fitness technology firm based in Singapore. EliteFit.AI provides computer vision, AI-driven musculoskeletal assessments, physiotherapy, and fitness programs to businesses and end users. The company's movement AI engine can be easily integrated into healthcare, insurance, sports, fitness, and public sector client apps and websites. EliteFit AI is profitable and has served dozens of clients across the Indo-Pacific region. It's now set to expand in the USA. Ani was once a consultant. He decided to make the leap to entrepreneurship during the dark days of COVID through a very interesting turn of events.
So I was at McKinsey, I can name them, and I was traveling a lot. I was on the road 4 days a week. This is a traditional consulting lifestyle, which was great, by the way. They're very generous firm, amazing quality of work, and it was fantastic. But 4 days a week away from home and on long haul flights, some of it was self-inflicted because I chose a client that was far, far away. I was on a 10-hour flight every Sunday night, red eye. I was on a 10.5-hour flight every Thursday night. And doing that for many months will eventually take a toll on your mental and physical health. And the mental health actually wasn't that bad because it was great work and fantastic colleagues and great clients. It was extremely stimulating. My body couldn't keep up, right? Sleeping on planes will do that to your back. And then my physical therapist said, hey, you know what? To fix your back, I need to see you twice a week, ideally thrice. I said, I don't know how that's going to happen because the reason I'm traveling back to Singapore is to spend more time with the kids and the family. So can we maybe do this on Zoom? And this was just pre-pandemic. So he didn't really know what Zoom was. I said, hey, let me show you. And he said, this is great. Yeah, you could be in your hotel room, wherever in the world you are, and I can watch you do these exercises and I'll tell you what you're doing right or wrong. But then what happened? Daylight savings happened and our schedule went completely out of whack. And we struggled with finding time with each other. And that's when I realized that, look, I'm a technologist. I need to do something that automates this process, right? What my physical therapist is doing seems like it can be automated using a computer vision model. All he needs to know is how often am I doing these exercises, with what levels of accuracy, and what I need to know is what mistakes I'm making, how to improve them.
So you must have known a lot about technology just to be able to figure out how all this would work.
So the work on the AI model actually started just before the pandemic. And we accelerated that during the pandemic, especially the early months.
Had you already started kind of looking into this possibility before you pulled the plug at McKinsey?
Yes, because it was literally to serve my own personal unmet need. It wasn't even necessarily to productize it. What happened was I built the initial AI model together with a couple of data scientists that I had access to. And I wasn't sure if this is actually a legit solution. I said, I don't know much about physical therapy and health sciences and fitness sciences. So I need someone, even outside of my physical therapist, to look at this from a third person perspective and kind of validate, right, if this is actually going to help rather than do damage. So I reached out to this organization in Singapore called Sports Singapore. And Sports Singapore is responsible for the public health and activity of Singapore's population. They have several sports scientists, fitness scientists, physical therapists in their organization. So we went and showed them the prototype we built and asked them, hey, what do you guys think about it? And they loved it. They liked it enough to say that, look, we've been trying to build something like this for many years. We've been quite unsuccessful at it. Sounds like you guys have a good starting point. Why don't you apply for a grant that we'll provide you, non-dilutive funding that'll help you, hire the right people to build this. You can tap into our network of physical therapists, sports scientists, fitness scientists as you need. And by the way, if you build it to the right levels of clinical accuracy, we'll even become your first paying client. And that was the opportunity cost. for me that I couldn't say no to.
So, what did you do, like your first day when you were no longer working with McKinsey and you had this brand new venture that you could give your full attention to?
Day one was about finding a co founder. I had some experience with startups before. I've been an early employee almost of one. I've been an investor in a few. The biggest risk is doing it all by yourself. Two friends of mine, one from college, who's now my wife, and another friend of mine who's now my part time CTO. So I've known both of them for over 20 years. And they both agreed to become part time co founders together with me. That worked out.
Very good. Very good. So, you mentioned that you had this organization that was willing to work with you to develop your product and also was willing to be your first customer. So, did that happen, partnering with you and then buying the product from you?
Absolutely. We actually set a really high bar for ourselves, right? More than what them as a client would do. Unless we're ourselves convinced that this is production ready, meaning people, it's not just a gimmick, that people are actually going to benefit from this. We aren't going to put it out there. So we spent almost 2 years in stealth mode where we just kept building it, kept refining it, generating no revenue, some costs, but we had a little bit of seed funding. So that helped a lot. And then after about a year and a half, when it was ready, we went to Sports Singapore and said, okay, what do you guys think now? And lo and behold, they did become our first paying client. In fact, when you're next in Singapore, Kathy, I will take you to the Decathlon store. Our product is actually live and in action where we're assessing the mobility levels of people at the population level. Like you can literally walk into that kiosk.
You're actually allowing future customers, if you go B2C, to try this out.
Yeah, absolutely.
And right now it's only available through a fitness provider for them, but eventually it might be something that they can use on their own.
Absolutely.
You're envisioning like a subscription based.
Yeah, the go to market model, meaning how we make it available to end users, is still a little bit, we're still a little distanced from that. But something like that, right? I think where it's either subscription based or a pay per use base.
A lot of the entrepreneurs who we've spoken to who left salaried work, they said one of the most harrowing parts of the transition was not knowing when they were going to be able to pay themselves. Was this a factor for you? Was it something you worried about?
100%. So I have two, I keep saying little kids, they're not so little anymore. I have a 14-year-old and a 9-year-old. And to run a family, right, obviously needs a source of stable income. So that's actually where my wife, who's been a rock for the last 5 years, really, really helped. So not only is she a co-founder and a daily advisor to the company, but she's gainfully employed and helps keep the lights on and has done so for the last 5 years. That also has enabled me to not draw a salary from the company, even though we're break even, meaning we're profitable and we're growing from that point. I put in whatever revenue and profits the company earns back into the company to fuel further growth.
So having a spouse who earns a decent income is one way to kind of de-risk this leap.
One of the things that I think we decided early on is that we're not going to compromise on our lifestyle. We're not going to either make ourselves or the kids feel that they can't do X, Y, and Z that they did before because now dad's running his own company. So I think that helped. The fact that we didn't live an extravagant lifestyle and we could maintain our lifestyle even when we went from a dual income family to a single income family. The other thing I think that really helps is the phase of or stage of life that I'm in. I feel somewhat strongly, just based on experience, that one gets a few windows in their life to go and experiment with things that they're passionate about and take risks. Thus far in my life, I've had that twice. The first was in my early to mid 20s when I didn't own a home, I didn't drive an expensive car, I didn't have children. So my income was, for a big part, disposable. And I could take that risk. And I think after building a certain amount of equity in your life. I think I've come to that point again in my early to mid 40s. So to do something like this in my 30s may have been a bit of a stretch.
When did you realize with your new company that you were going to make it? I mean, was it when you got that first client, the one who helped you develop your product?
I think I ask myself every day, are we going to make it? It comes and goes. I'd say I believe that linear growth is the enemy of exponential growth. And I, in fact, believe that linear growth for an early stage startup is maybe even dangerous, right? So while we have made it by a lot of different metrics, I feel we haven't yet, right? And I think our best is ahead of us in the immediate to near term, even. That said, there's, I think, different stage gates if you think of it in a, I guess, tech or project plan perspective. The first is, are we going to raise any initial funds to kind of get this off the ground? The second is this actually a viable idea where people are interested in buying a product like this? And when you get the initial funds, then you get initial clients, then, your clients come back with a ton of feedback saying, you know what, A, B, and C isn't working as expected. And, can we even fix it? Is technology there at this point? So as the journey, as time progressed and we were able to meet some of these milestones and pass some of these stage gates, I think the conviction got higher and higher and higher. That said, the conviction was already high from the get go simply because it was my personal need. It wasn't like a fictional idea saying, hey, you know what, let's try this and then they will come. But that's actually how it works. And I still feel that we've got to ask ourselves every single day, what do we need to do to make it better?
Now, what's your end game? Are you hoping for an IPO?
Well, we're hoping to build a sustainable, meaningful, impactful product and company. That's the core focus. To grow for the sake of growing is, I think, dangerous. To exit for the sake of wealth, I think, is short-term thinking. The focus is quite truly to build a product that really helps people, helps clinicians, helps individuals, helps patients move better, improve their lifestyles. And I think as we build towards that vision, things like an IPO or an acquisition may happen.
What advice would you give someone who is working in a job with guaranteed income and is thinking about trying to make it on their own?
Well, I can only speak from personal experience. I'd say, number one, don't do it for what may be the wrong reasons. Don't do it for generating an enormous amount of wealth in a short amount of time, because that usually doesn't work out. There are no shortcuts. So you really have to nose to the grindstone, give it the amount of effort and the time that it needs to be successful if it does end up becoming successful. I'd say don't do it alone, right? Find a partner, ideally two, to do it together with, because it's going to be an incredibly lonely and frustrating journey if you do it alone. Yeah, I think that's it. Know that there are no shortcuts.
Is there any advice you'd give your younger self?
So many. Get this done ASAP. I feel that while a stable job is good, this has been my most gratifying experience. I've been with some terrific companies, T-Mobile, Microsoft, Accenture, McKinsey. I feel all of that pales in comparison to the amount of learning, excitement, terrors that I face in this job. I wish I knew then what I know now. I wouldn't have spent those many years at big corp.